Master was sent by Babaji to the West not to start beautiful communities, but to bring Kriya Yoga to the West. He was also sent to bring a message of the essential unity between the Indian teachings of Hinduism and the Christian teachings, to show how they're basically one. And he was sent to bring back, as he himself put it, original Christianity and original Hindu yoga, both of which have been sort of lost sight of in the great changes that always occur in history. And it's essential in religion for great masters to come back again and again to remind people what it's all about, because people otherwise forget. They take a teaching. I think the worst thing that ever happened to Christianity was when Constantine made it the official religion. And suddenly everybody found he was a Christian, but he didn't know what it meant. And what that meant was an enormous dilution. And I've been thinking about the role of Ananda in Master's work. So there are a lot of thoughts that need to be sort of drawn together, and I think for a real and very important purpose. The purpose of Ananda is to, well, if he said that he came to bring back original Christianity, then we have to think, well, what was original Christianity? In what way did it differ from what we see right now? Because most people who call themselves Christians think that's what they are. But Master made it very clear that he had been sent by God to bring back a teaching that had been lost sight of. And the religions of the West, the different churches and so on, have become altogether too formalized, too dogmatized, too institutionalized. And if you go back to original Christianity, and these discoveries are coming out all the time in the Nag Hammadi Library, in the Dead Sea Scrolls, in research that's being done still on other books that people have sort of tended to put aside, but they were very much a part of the early Christian religion. What you see above all is not so much an institution. An institution was imposed on the Christian religion, but Christ himself was not an institutionalist. If you read his speeches, his statements, from that point of view, you see that he never even talked about church. Even when he said that, oh, thou art Peter, and on this rock I will found my church, he was talking of cosmic consciousness. He was talking of Peter individually. He wasn't talking about my church. He never talked about that. And if we understand that Christianity is essentially the same message that Master brought, which is self-realization. It's so important to realize that what this teaching is self-realization. Now that doesn't mean that we don't have an institution, but the institution is secondary, and the church made it primary. The institutionalized religion was perhaps necessary at that time. Kali Yuga needed to see things in fixed form. But in fact, it destroyed self-realization. You couldn't even have your own conscience, which is what self-realization has to mean. If I realize my own higher self, I'm not going to go to a priest to get it done for me. But in the Catholic tradition, in the Christian tradition, they've either eliminated saints altogether and said, well, we're all saints. And you look around you and you say, what makes you a saint? The fact that you signed your name on a dotted line that I'm a Presbyterian or something? I don't think that quite does it. And so what we see with Master's teachings, when he said, I'm bringing back original Christianity, he meant self-realization. And he meant the individuals, as he said to us, you have to individually make love to God. No one can do it for you. And if you have an institution, the only purpose of the institution is to help that to be actualized. It's like a hive, which can help the bees to create honey, but the hive is not the religion, it's not the honey. So what Master brought is something that has been lost sight of, even in his lifetime and just after his death. And therefore I say that Ananda has, and with all this struggling that we've gone through, it's earned its right to claim its place in Master's mission. Ananda has a role to play. Yes, we have to have an organization, but we don't put that first. We put the individual search for God first. That's where it has to be. We've got to bring it back, and that's why Master kept talking to me about this, because he saw that I had this understanding. Well, so the purpose of Ananda, and this is a point which the edges, the definitions tend to get a little blurred. We have a beautiful community, and people say, well, then we must make a more beautiful community. Maybe, and maybe not. Honestly, it wouldn't matter if we were in mud huts and walking on mud roads if we all meditated and loved God individually. The purpose of Ananda is not to create a beautiful community. That's something you do in the process of doing your best to serve God. But the purpose of Ananda is to get to have a place where people can come together and love him, to create a hive. That's what it's all about. And I have been very happy to receive many letters from all of you saying that that is what you want to affirm. That is what Ananda is, and you want it and you know. This is so important. Finally, my mission is to find God. And so the outer work that I'm doing is what I need to do to find God. And that, in my case, is that I've been full of doubts for many lifetimes. He told me you were eaten up with doubts. And I don't suppose there's a doubt that anybody could have that I haven't shared. And so I don't have doubts in this life. I haven't really had doubts. But I think I can anticipate other people's questions and doubts and can help them. And it helps me to fix that faith in myself to help them to overcome their doubts. Therefore, it's a part of my mission, which it may not be that of somebody else, to teach other people. But it's also that my Guru came with a special mission, and he needed people to help him. I was divinely appointed, and he told me that. He said, you have a great work to do. And he said that you mustn't disappoint me in that work. I think that I know that he wanted me to help spread his mission. My mission, you can say, is to help him to be known, to help the world to know his teachings, to help the world to know what an important person he is in this world, that I think that his life will have a changing impact on civilization, as Jesus did, as Buddha did, as Krishna did, and so on. And in these ways, I think of Yogananda as the avatar or the divine incarnation for this Dwapara Yuga, to initiate into the world this new way of thinking, to make it easier for people to adjust to this new way of thinking. At any rate, we're coming into an age where there will be peace and harmony, and one of the most important things for this new age is these communities that I myself have started. And you asked me about any mission that I have. Certainly a large part of that mission has been to bring into outward manifestation what the world was not ready for when he was alive. He talked about it. He said that I am sowing my thoughts in the ether and thy words shall not die. And he spoke with great power. But I know that the president of his organization, I said to her once, when are we going to start these communities? She said, frankly, I'm not interested. Well, as what he wanted, and I have done that. I think that will be a strong part of the pattern for the future, where we cease to think in terms of doing everything, just little communities of people where you can relate to your next door neighbor, where you can help your next door neighbor. You don't have to depend upon welfare from an impersonal government. Many benefits, which I don't want to take the time to talk about now, will come through these communities. And I think that this idea of communities, as Yogananda said, it will spread like wildfire.
In your communities, do many nationalities live together?
We have people from any nationality that comes. We don't go out looking for them saying, oh, you're from Africa, we need you here. But those who come, and they're welcome from all over the world.
And there's harmony.
There's an amazing harmony. You naturally see little differences sometimes. You do have divorces in our communities, much less than in the world. And people somehow manage to do it more peaceably. There's harmony here. There's brotherhood. There's cooperation. There's helping each other rather than competing with each other. I've often said that if you live, this is something my guru said, if you live in a village of 1,000 people and compete with them, you have, each person has 999 enemies. If you work with them, each person has 999 friends. In these communities, everybody is a friend to everybody. And they help each other. If somebody's out of a job, the community helps him to find another job, to be stable while he doesn't have a job, and so on. If people are sick, people go to the hospital and do what they can to help him, pray for him. When a couple get married, people get together to give them money so they can go on a honeymoon and all those things. It's really a wonderful way of life.
It sounds like a family, only a larger spiritual family.
And we should realize in the end that the whole world is my family. And how can you do that? I've often wondered. I've realized that it's because everybody is seeking the same thing. Just as everybody wants food, everybody wants shelter, everybody wants kindness, yes. And finally, everybody wants happiness. Everyone in the world, he may be the worst mafioso, he wants happiness. And finally, if you understand that in the highest octave, everybody is seeking bliss. And so you can see everybody in the world, if you see them in that light, you see that they're all your brothers and sisters. And you can't help loving them. This is the beautiful thing, because you see perfect strangers in the streets, and you see that underneath their competitive urge to get this from the other person and get that and so on, underneath it all, there's a simple, innocent desire for joy. And you can't help loving people when you see that they want that same bliss. You see that bliss is at the heart of their own reality. Often I go through the streets seeing perfect strangers, and to me they're not strangers. And I find myself smiling at them as if they were my own. And the nice thing is that sometimes they answer too. They feel my love for them, and they're uplifted by that. So the more you feel God's presence in everybody, and the more you feel that love at their center, that desire for bliss. I think of love as just bliss in motion. And when you feel that desire, then they respond too. I know that everywhere I go, I see people, I've known them in other lives, they seem like friends to me. And it's a very happy way to live.
All of the negatives are created fundamentally by spiritual disease, that God is distant from us. And so the real task of this line of gurus, the real task of Ananda, is to break down the delusion that God is far away. And we have been given specific techniques that help us do that. One of the techniques is Kriya Yoga. But primarily the technique is meditation, because when we still the mind, and the mind becomes less and less restless, and we begin to feel not what is outside of us, but what is inside of us. Then we find that what is inside of us is innately holy. What is inside of us is joy and peace and love and light and wisdom, innately spiritual, innately holy qualities. And through meditation, when we begin to feel those qualities, then our task becomes bringing those qualities into our daily life. And that is why Babaji sent Lahiri back into the marketplace, back into the hustle and bustle and noise and pollution of Benares, because he wanted him to begin to demonstrate for everyone that God is not separate, that God is in our jobs, God is in our family, God is in our life as we lead it. And it's that we have to work on, each of us, in our own way. And so first of all, if we want to integrate the world, we have to begin to integrate our own minds, our own consciousness, our own emotions. And that's what meditation does. Meditation, now we have scientific evidence that meditation changes both the structure and the functioning of our brain. Over almost 80 years ago, Yogananda ji said that meditation changes the cells of your brain. People then thought he was probably speaking poetically, some vague image. But now we have scientific evidence that that is absolutely true. People who meditate are happier, they're calmer, their immune system works better, they are able to maintain a sense of peace and joy where they go. And so if we want to bring God close, let's begin by the practice of meditation, which is the primary practice that we teach through Ananda.
And so he, thinking about the more extended family in India, thinking about the beautiful villages in India where people help each other, at least in the past this was true, he came up with the ideal of world brotherhood colonies, which would be an extended family, which would show that life is much more fulfilling when we don't just think about taking care of our own, but when we think about our neighbors equally as ourselves. And my husband and I, Jyotish and I, have had the great, great blessing of living in Ananda World Brotherhood community in America, in California, since its beginning in 1968 and 69. And I have seen a way of life there that one assumes is not possible in this world. A few years ago, a very fine swami from Rishikesh came to visit us, Swami Shankarananda, and we were showing him around, and he said, "You can't say that Ananda is like an Indian village. Ananda is like an ancient Vedic village where high principles and concern for others and the search for God are the first and foremost." So Yogananda again looked at the world around him and he said, how can we bring together the best of East and West? And he tried to start these communities, but the time was such, it was after World War II, where there was a lot of people were looking for security. They weren't sure of being able to expand. So although he tried to start them, the time was not right. So it was left again to his great disciple, Swami Kriyananda ji, to bring forth this movement of World Brotherhood colonies. And what a beautiful job what a beautiful expression this has given to the world. I can't tell you, I could go on for quite a long time telling you the impact that Ananda has had on the world, but it's really, it has given hope it has given inspiration, it has given the thought that people can live according to their ideals, and it gives people faith that all this is possible on a very practical, real level, not just theory, but living it for 45 years. That is, as they say, the proof of the pudding is in the eating. Well, people have been enjoying this wonderful community life for a long time. And now here in India, we're starting one outside of Pune. And we hope you can all visit us there. It's just beginning, but I believe with the deep spirituality that we find here in India, I think this movement will grow very quickly. And finally, Yogananda brought, as he said, I came to the West and I brought the cream of the teachings of yoga. And then I presented them to my students, and I presented them in such a way that they could practice them in their daily lives. Yogananda brought, as it was destined, the science of Kriya Yoga. And he wrote lessons and disseminated these teachings, and he spoke all across America. And so from that point in time, the meeting of East and West, predestined from long ago, coming down through this line, focusing on our Guru Deva, Yoganandaji, to bring these teachings in all these very, very practical ways. This new birth, a renaissance has come about, and it's just beginning. And we can see it in America. We can see that the consciousness is beginning to change, and the acceptance of true spirituality is happening. And so those of us who are here, who have been touched by his teachings, let us feel that power of Yogananda empowering us to continue the work that he started, that Kriyanandaji has furthered, and that all of us now, East and West, can come together and bring about a unity in the world that will be one of the most positive forces for integration and change and upliftment of our planet today. God bless you.
I've lived in many countries and mixed with many men.
I've shared the days of sunshine, gone with them in the rain.
The fires at evening said we were brothers. The fires at evening said we were brothers. A soldier I saw weeping beside a dying friend.
My officers had said I must hate him till the end.
But seeing his grief I knew we were brothers. But seeing his grief I knew we were brothers.
A man sat on a doorstep to see the children play. The gentle way he smiled there would charm your fears away. A stranger he, but love made us brothers. A stranger he, but love made us brothers.
One day I climbed a mountain with friends of other lands.
The words we used were different, but joy one understands.
Our gladness in God's world made us brothers. Our gladness in God's world made us brothers. The words and customs vary like waves upon the sea. One life beneath the surface binds everyone to me. Who knows the truth knows all men as brothers. Who knows the truth knows all men as brothers. ourselves apart. The fences we've been building squeeze tight upon our hearts. Come sing the truth that